How's it going, guys? Xbox Jared here. I got a little treat for you, a review of a very special movie. Unfortunately, one that I didn't find out about until I was much older in life, because I always grew up loving kung fu karate movies. When I was young, I saw The Karate Kid, and it really changed me. Also, Bruce Lee movies. God love Bruce Lee. The guy was a legend. But he's actually in this movie. Well, someone plays him anyways, which I'll get to in a minute. It's my favorite part of the movie. But No Retreat, No Surrender came out. I believe it was 1980. Was it 5 or 6? I think it was 1986. So it was about a year before The Karate Kid. So was The Karate Kid inspired by this movie? I really think that it was, and there's some parts that are very similar, which I will get to in a minute as well. But let's just talk about the main plot in the movie real quick. So it differs in some ways. In some ways, it is actually very different. It's not even about a kid competing to be the best. It's about a kid who ends up getting in trouble, and a kid who ends up fighting a guy at the end just because he pisses him off. He's not even part of the competition. It's actually pretty awesome. The main character, I don't know the guy. I've never seen him in any other movies. Just some kid, but he did a really good job playing his part. It's very karate. They're in a karate school, all doing their little katas and their little routines. The guy's dad is the sensei. He's the owner of that school, and they end up getting in a fight. His dad thinks that he's using karate, for the wrong purposes, getting in mix-ups and shuffles with bullies and stuff. It has a really good message to it, and that's what I love about this movie. I mean, really, like, it's just it's a damn good movie. I'm starting to wonder if maybe it is better than Karate Kid. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the guy who played Mr. Miyagi. What's his name? Pat Miata. Sorry if I got that wrong. And Daniel Son, the guy who played him, like, they were a great duo. But there's just something about this movie. I think maybe I just relate to it more. Maybe it's something that someone like me can relate to more, I guess. Because not everybody gets an old sensei, who trains them and stuff like that. This movie, I think what I'm trying to say is it's more realistic. And it's something that someone like myself could relate to. But yeah, the guy's dad, the son gets in a fight with him, and he ends up going to a different school, and the people at this school are kind of like the bad guys. They're kind of like Cobra Kai. So I guess that's what makes this movie similar to Karate Kid, is that there's like the good school and the bad school. And in the bad school, there's some very funny characters. This movie is sort of more comical than Karate Kid. Like, one of the bullies is just like this really fat guy. He's always eating Twinkies and always saying really stupid things like, "Oh, great, another Bruce Lee lover, just what we need in this town." He's like, I think they're kind of trying to make him racist in a way, which is kind of funny that they did that, which would not have flown well these days. A lot of stuff in there wouldn't have flown well these days, but great movie, man. Great movie. I love the guy's friend too. It's this black kid. He's not really a karate guy, but he's kind of like his shoulder to lean on, and he's the guy that helps him in some ways. He's a stereotypical hip hopper, really really awesome stuff. There's a little skateboarding scene in the movie too, which I thought was kind of rad. There was a skateboarding scene in Free Willy, believe it or not. If you know the '90s movie Free Willy, with a whale, there's actually a really cool skateboarding scene in there. I review that movie if you want to check that out as well. But if you love '80s movies, even if you're not a big karate guy or whatever, you should watch this film because it's still a good movie. And while the acting may not have been, 10 out of 10, I still thought it was good, and I thought it was charming in its own right. For me, a movie doesn't have to have great acting to be good, as long as it has a good story, a good plot, a good message, then I think it can be a really great movie. Now, was this movie a 10 out of 10? No. It was not a 10 out of 10, but it was still, I would say, at least a good 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. I don't know, I really like the characters. I like the message. You know, uh, um, how not to fight unless using it for self-defense. I say that in all my karate videos. Never fight unless it's for self-defense. You don't have to prove yourself to a bully, guys. A lot of them are just sad, insecure people to begin with. And all the bullies in this movie were quite sad. But let's get to the final fight here. So the final fight is with none other than Jean-Claude Van Damme. Now, I don't know his exact history with movies, and being that he's, of European descent, I don't know if his first movies were actually in Europe. I'm not exactly sure. But I think he actually came to America like Bruce Lee and started making martial arts films. I think his first film was Kickboxer. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but very, very popular, awesome movie. This guy can kick. Like he's a really good martial artist. He can, he can do that full split kind of kick. Uh, and I think people really loved that back in the 80s because it was still sort of a new thing, that sort of fighting. Karate, I just want to say really quick, like karate was awesome. I mean, unfortunately, it's not that relevant anymore. I mean, sure there are karate schools, but unfortunately, yeah, karate sort of is a dead thing. It's been replaced by MMA, and I'll admit I sort of had a hard time with that for a while because I always loved old school karate. But the more I studied MMA and also other really good MMA fighters, the more I realized that it's really not half bad. It's actually, I would say, an evolved sort of art over karate because of the ground game. I don't believe in fighting on the ground unless you have to, but I still think it's good to be knowledgeable of it. And I will admit it's pretty cool seeing guys, do those sort of like WWE moves, throwing people and shit on the ground. It is pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty, I guess you could call it manly, not to sound gay, but it's just riddled with testosterone, kind of stuff. But unfortunately, there are bad people who give MMA a bad name. People who are very close-minded and attack styles like karate. These are the kinds of people that turn me off from MMA. But I believe that MMA sort of is like the new evolved karate, and it's, if you want to really be relevant, I would suggest you guys take MMA because there's really no future in karate. There's new styles like Kyokushin or whatever, but to me, it's just MMA, lacking a few things. I think the best style that you want to practice really is MMA. But also, believe it or not, I'm a big love for really old, ancient styles like Kung Fu, like Baji Quan, Xingyi Quan, Wushu, as some people call it, Wu Dang, which is the real name for it. But I love the internal aspects, and I think that to be a good fighter, you have to know the internal and the external. When you combine them, then you really have the yin and yang, and you are the true fighter. We can utilize what's known as chi or ki. Chi by the Chinese, ki by the Japanese. We all have internal energy that flows through us, and when you can learn to channel that, I believe that's what makes a great fighter. And I do have a few demos, not many, on this channel of some my style that I created called Baji Kwando, which creates elements of soft and hard, combining Taekwondo with Baji Quan. I'm going to try to do more videos on that, but so yeah, I believe you can utilize Chi, internal aspects, and sort of any sort of style, be it MMA, Krav Maga, Muay Thai, what have you. You can utilize internal and external within it by using circular motion, breathing, things of that nature. So just a little advice for you guys. If you ever want to try to be the best fighter in the world, well, there you go. And one thing I didn't mention really quick in this video is the cameo of none other than Bruce Lee. Now, of course, it's not Bruce Lee because he passed away in the 70s. But the main character, the kid in this movie, it's actually a pretty moving part. He prays to Bruce Lee on his grave, and he asked him, he's all broken because he got beat up by some bullies or something, and he says that he just wants him to help him, and he prays for his help. And sure enough, Bruce Lee shows up in his garage where he practices karate in the garage. Little Step Brothers quote for you there. But Had to throw that in. So Bruce Lee trains him, and I just have to say this. I love Bruce Lee, but I don't agree with all of his concepts. I think that he's lacking more in the traditional internal aspect because the main thing that he taught this kid was just speed. That was the main thing he taught him. And I will admit that sort of bothered me because I can promise you guys, and this is just a quick rant, you know, if you're a really good fighter and you're only 130 pounds, odds are you're still going to get your ass kicked by someone who's twice as big as you, you know. I'm not saying that you can't beat him, but really power does help a lot. And speed, while it is a good thing, if you're also lacking technique too, like internal energy, although he does mention chi, so I will give him that in this movie. Bruce Lee actually does mention using chi power. Um, but there's still things that I did disagree with. One thing that he told the kid, and I have to point this out because I'm a martial artist, so I'm sorry if you guys are bored by this, but this could help you though. This really could help you. He says not to use shoulder motion when you're throwing a punch because when you use your shoulder, the enemy can see what you're about to do. But the truth of the matter is, if you don't use your shoulders and if you don't really kind of use it like a whip, you know, if you just throw fast straight, I mean, there's not going to be hardly any power in that. Even with your backhand, you really have to use your shoulders. You have to, otherwise you're not going to have the same power. So I would just say try to practice being really fast, but also using your shoulders. So Bruce Lee, he told the kid though, he said, you know, you can be fast as long as you're using your chi, but chi is not everything. You know, some people may sound like it is. I'm actually not one of those people, believe it or not. I know some of you guys see my videos with my earrings and stuff like that, but I don't believe chi is everything. I also believe in power and muscle and technique. So that's just a little fun fact for you guys, you know. Take it with a grain of salt. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. Do your own research, you know. You don't have to listen to me. You know, it is what it is, man. It's always good to do your own research and figure things out for yourself. But yeah, anyways, going back to the part about with Bruce Lee, that was probably my favorite part of the movie. You know, because Bruce Lee, he also throws out some famous quotes like how you have to empty your cup before you fill it up, which is basically saying how, you know, when you have someone teach you something, you have to disregard all that you knew so that you can learn it in a new way, basically. And I thought that was really cool how they put that in there. And of course, you know, the be like water. I think he said that maybe, I don't know, but you know, that's the real famous quote from Bruce Lee, be like water and stuff like that. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. No retreat, no surrender. They say that a few times in the movie. It's actually kind of hilarious. No retreat, no surrender. It's a corny 80s movie. You gotta love that shit. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Peace.